All of our panelists are here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining this evening. If you are on the call, you are attending the Baylands Development Working Together to Best Serve Our Students, a joint community meeting between the Bayshore Elementary School District, the Brisbane Elementary School District, and Jefferson Union High School District. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on each of the district's websites and or YouTube channels following the meeting. If you have any questions, you can put your question in the chat box. You will only be able to see your own personal question. We will be saving the chat so that we can address any unanswered questions via a frequently asked document following the meeting. I also want to let the group know that we will be ending at 7 o'clock or when all the questions have been exhausted, whichever comes first. So thank you again for coming, and we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with welcome and introductions. Next slide, please. Can you go back one slide? There we go. Thank you. So we're going to start with the Bayshore Elementary School District. I am Dr. Audra Pittman. I am the superintendent, and my two board members will introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Teresa, board president, Bayshore School District.
Good evening, and I'm David Rudolph, Bayshore board member as well.
Next, we will have the Brisbane School District introduce their team.
Hello, this is Ronan Culver. I am the superintendent. As you can see, I'm outside because my family got sick of me monopolizing the dining room and kitchen for the last 10 weeks. So they kicked me to the outside at dinner time. And I'll let my two board members that are here introduce themselves.
Kima, you want to go first?
Well, we'll start with Jackie because I don't see Kima.
All right, this is Jackie. I was talking, but I was on mute. Brisbane School District.
We will then come back when Kima is able to get on, and we will now have Jefferson Union High School District introduce themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Pittman. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for making time in your day to participate in this informational community meeting. My name is Dr. Terry Deloria, and I am the superintendent.
Hello, my name is Kalima Slahudi, and I'm the board president.
And I'm Andy Lee. I'm one of the board trustees.
Thank you all. Jacob, next slide. So tonight we have some certain items that we are going to be discussing. First, I want to thank everyone again for attending. We're looking forward to having more meetings together as the Baylands development moves forward and unfolds over the next several years. We also appreciate your willingness to participate in this meeting virtually. I think I can speak for all of us when I can say we're all looking forward to when we can come back together in person as a group to have these meetings. But we do appreciate your flexibility and understanding and willingness to participate in this way. So in terms of the contents of tonight's meeting, obviously we'll introduce what the purpose is and why we're having this meeting. We are going to share with you the different district profiles of each of the 3 districts that are represented here. We will go over the overview of the Baylands development. It is a brief overview of just what has been presented to the city of Brisbane and to our school districts as to what the developers' plans are for the 600+ acres that they plan on developing. We want to go into more detail around what our district responsibilities are as the educational entities in our community and how we're providing education both now as well looking towards the future as we look into this development. We will also talk to you about a program collaboration between the Bayshore Elementary School District and Jefferson Union High School District as the Baylands are developed. And then we'll go through a summary as well as question and answers and give our board members an opportunity to give any last minute remarks towards the end of the meeting. Next slide. So the purpose of tonight is for us to inform our community, both our 3 individual communities, as well as the collective community that the 3 of us support, on our recent district decisions around the Baylands development and how they are directly related to education. Again, tonight's meeting is specifically related to how the 3 of us are working together to support the bigger educational outcomes of our community. Next slide. So we'll start with the district profiles. As I said, I represent the Bayshore Elementary School District. We are a preschool through 8th grade school district. We currently serve the Bayshore community of Daly City, as well as the Baylands area development of Brisbane City. We currently have 1 school, which is the Bayshore School, which houses 390 kindergarten through 8th graders and 30 preschool students. Our staff has 53 staff members. 22.2% of our students are considered English learners, and 62.3% of our students qualify for free or reduced lunch. Next slide.
Hello, Ronan here again. So I am the superintendent of the Brisbane School District, and we are actually pre-K 8 as well. It says TK 8 on there, but I forgot to mention that we have a wonderful preschool. The communities that we serve are the proper town of Brisbane. We also serve a section of Southern Hills in Daly City and a very small neighborhood called Diamond Heights in South San Francisco. We have 3 schools. We have Panorama Elementary School, which is in Daly City. We have Brisbane Elementary and Lippman Middle School, both in current Brisbane proper. We have 468 students last year, projected about 502 next year. We have 75 employees. 14% of our students are English language learners, and our current free and reduced meal count is 26%.
Next slide, Jake. So this is Dr. Deloria. I'll share a little bit of information about the Jefferson Union School District. We serve students in grades 9 through 12, and we also have an adult education program. The communities we serve are Brisbane, Broadmoor, Colma, Daly City, and Pacifica. We have 5 schools, and we have over 4,300 students. Currently, we have over 450 staff. About 13% of our students are English learners, and 29% participate in the free and reduced meals program.
Next slide.
I believe this was my slide. Is that right?
Yes.
That is correct.
Fantastic. All right. So the Baylands Development Project is in Brisbane, in the town of Brisbane. It is located between SFO and downtown San Francisco. It comprises 684 acres of land. Previously, this land had been used for railways and basically trash as a depository. It's currently owned by the Universal Paragon Corporation, UPC. The projected homes that we understand to be put into the Baylands area is about 2,200 units with some commercial space, 7 square miles of commercial space, some education space, and some open space. And I don't know if we have the exact numbers on how much of the open space out of there is left. The full development of this land will take, once it starts, anywhere from 10 to 20 years. So it's down the road to develop this large tract of land.
Next slide. Thank you. So I want to share information with everybody about how districts respond to development and how it relates to enrollment. So districts routinely monitor student enrollment. I've worked in districts where the enrollment grew from 7,000 to over 23,000, but I've also worked in districts and know of districts where the enrollment is getting smaller. So this is a typical routine for districts, for superintendents, staff, and the board to annually look at student enrollment and to also look at it over time. Districts also monitor development, especially anything that might generate some kind of housing. And it's important to know what kind of units. Are they apartments? Are they condos? Are they first-time homes? How many units will there be? And then getting some kind of data related to the housing residents, including family size and other demographics, is really helpful information. I think you can see having this kind of information lets you know if you need a school, and if you need a school, how big does the school have to be, and which students or which grade levels need to be served. Districts also conduct demographic studies. So there are agencies out there who do this. This is their primary work. What they do is they collect information oftentimes from the district, but also through city offices, planning offices that take a look at permits pulled, etc. And then they're able to generate 10-year studies, longer studies of the effect of those developments on district demographics, in particular enrollment data. Then based on all of this information, boards make evidence-informed decisions about facilities and programming. Next slide, please. So the Bayshore District and Jefferson Union have been working together to talk about programming, because the Baylands does reside in the Bayshore and Jeff Union attendance areas. And one of the things we've been talking about is how we can leverage the two districts to the betterment of all of our students in all three of our districts. So there is interest in having a high school in the Baylands. And one of the things we're thinking about is having a shared 6 through 12 campus, which would be open to all the students in all three of our districts. And by doing something like that, I think you could appreciate some of the benefits. We could have world languages that actually starts in grade 6, so that our students are getting 4 years in high school, 3 years in middle school, a foreign language. We could have a coordinated and aligned STEAM program. We're talking about science, technology, engineering, art, and math. We could have a coordinated and aligned visual and performing arts program. And I think something else we're really excited about, we have a partnership with Skyline College. And so it's possible that we could weave in an early and middle college programming into this shared campus. Some other things that we could do because of the grade spans, we could have some mentoring opportunities. We'd be able to share staffing, share programming, as I said, and work on some common programming such as project-based learning. Next slide, please. So, something I didn't say on the previous slide, the builder, UPC, Universal Paragon, is setting aside land in the Baylands development for an educational space. So I didn't want to forget to say that. So in summary, there are 3 points we want to leave with people before we go to questions in the chat. First point is that all 3 districts, the Jefferson Union, Bayshore Elementary, and Brisbane Elementary, are working together and with Universal Paragon to build a 6th through 12th grade school campus in the Baylands development. All 3 districts, again, will be developing future programs together to provide the very best educational experience for all students within our 3 communities. And all 3 districts intend to stay 3 independent districts with the current attendance boundaries. There is no need to redraw our boundary lines to enhance educational opportunities. And with that, do we want board members to make a comment, or did we want to jump into the questions from the chat first?
We only have 1 comment and 1 question at this point, so I think that we could probably let our board members speak before we get to those questions.
Perfect.
So we'll start with Bayshore board members if you would like to say something.
Well, Dr. Pittman, I'll go ahead and jump in real quick and just say that it's really exciting opportunity, and it's definitely been a pleasure working with, getting to know and working with all 3 districts and their board members and all the superintendents. And just wanted to note that I really appreciate the teamwork that's going into this. And you know, granted, I know Ronan had stated this is, you know, a 15-20 year project, but just wanted to emphasize that we're trying to stay ahead of that and do the best planning we can based on the data that's available at the time.
So on Brisbane side, Jackie, did you have anything you wanted to add before we jump into some of the questions that are starting to come up?
Well, I just wanted to thank all the superintendents for getting this together. And I really look forward to seeing how it evolves over time to serve all of our students in all our districts. And I know from the Brisbane point of view, we're very, you know, excited about the high school option on this side of the district of Jefferson. So it's all good. That's all.
I just want to repeat sentiments that it was really a pleasure through this process of getting to know, and I think something that should have happened much sooner and something that I look forward to continuing is just firming up the relationships between our 3 school districts and getting to know my fellow board members better, develop that working relationship. You know, a lot of the work is in a school board, and a lot of folks don't realize this. So most of the decisions that we make are decisions that are future and future building and really affect what's going to happen with our students that are enrolling with us in the future, not so much now when you talk about long lasting plans. And so this kind of falls in line with that we're doing the work now so that a future board is relieved from the stress and pressure of trying to have to build something up or not having the resource or access to resources when it comes to future development. So I'm glad that we're working together and putting the structure together now so that the board in the future, because I will not be on the board in 10 years or 15 years, has the tools that they need to address the issues of increasing enrollment, and especially in the Brisbane Beelands area. So thank you everyone for all the work.
I just want to second some of those comments from President Salahuddin. It's pretty exciting to have been working with all 3 districts, getting to know everyone. And this really is an eye for the long term. I mean, you know, the presentation shows we're looking at this 10 to 20 year timeline, and it really is about the overall health and of our fiscal health of our districts and the long-term educational health of the future students who will come through each of these districts. So we're pretty excited about being able to lay this groundwork today, especially with a developer that's willing to place a school on this property. So very excited to be part of this process, and this is the sort of thing that's exciting work for school board members. So again, thank you so much for all of you who are part of this meeting and for participating.
So I think that we can go to questions. Karine will read the question. I do want to make sure that all of the attendees know that some of the questions that are being asked, we may not have the answer to right now. This is still in the beginning stages, so keep that in mind. Some we definitely have answers to, but others, the answer may simply be, this is a great question that we're going to take into consideration as we move forward in the design process. So we appreciate you understanding that and your patience as we work through. Remember that this is the first meeting of many to come over the course of this journey that we're all excited to be on. So Karine, did you want to read a question? I think that one of the first questions I noticed, Jacob, if you could go back to the slide that has an overview. One of the questions was, where is this located? And I'm going to let Ronan take this.
So first of all, if I don't know who's controlling the slide, but even with glasses on, if they could blow that up a little bit so people can become a little bit more familiar with the area. And I also want to mention that it really is a wake-up call for all of us that are experiencing teachers with distance learning going on, to keep up with the conversation that's going on and then reading these questions on the side back and forth. my hat's off to all those teachers out there that are making distance learning working, because there's quite a bit to navigate there with your thought process. So I don't know who asked the question, but they basically asked if it was east or west of Highway 101. And if from the map right there, and I can't control my controller, you can see where 101 is. It's all to the west of it, because the east is basically the bay. And you can see that it butts up just south of where Brisbane proper is, and just east of Bayshores District, or that part of Daly City where the Cow Palace is located. Currently, there's a train station you can see in red going through there. Caltrain goes through there. So I hope that is the person that asked that question kind of gets a visual on where that is.
Okay, thank you. This is a comment from JUHSD's AFT President, Monica Casey, and her comment is, I'm glad we've come up with a solution that is both affordable and exciting for all JUHSD students, while having something closer for Brisbane families. There is a question about the calendar. What does this mean in terms of having a unified calendar?
So I think that's one of those questions that we don't necessarily have the answer to at this point. What I can say is we currently work hard at making sure that we match our calendars as closely as possible. We do take that into consideration. I can speak for Bayshore. We wait for Jefferson Union's calendar to come out, and then we, as a district, look at that as a guide. Obviously, there's some tweaks. It's not exactly, but the major breaks are all the same. So again, this is something that we would absolutely take into consideration, especially if we have a shared campus.
And I'll just, from Brisbane, I will second that from Audra. Working together with all the local school districts and trying to get calendars that match up is always a tough thing. We do wait for Jefferson's, and then we tend to have a 2-week spring break. We tend to not always line up the start of school. There's a lot of factors that involve the start of school, but we are always working to line up the calendars. We want vacations to line up as much as possible so that families that share students between a couple of districts can always plan their family time.
So while Ms. Baca is looking for another question, I noticed a question in chat is, where will the school be located? So if you look at the slide, there's one little blue segment right south of Geneva Avenue. That little blue square there is land designated for a school that the developer will build. Ms. Baca? So while I'm waiting for Ms. Baca, there's also a question that's asking about, are all the staff, teachers, all staff really, part of the same union, and how will that be resolved? So it's not unusual for districts to work together and leverage resources. So all of our unions will remain intact. There's no reason to put everybody in the same union. And what happens is, very 30,000 mile view, the business people figure out a way of invoicing, and that's, you know, that's how that works out, but that's down the road.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we are having conversations and planning a shared space, but we would still be 2 separate districts. So I want to make sure that that's clear to everybody who's listening in, that there would still be the Jefferson Union High School District, that if you were in 9th grade or above, you would be attending. And then there would be the Bayshore Elementary School District for preschool through 8, and there would be the Brisbane School District for preschool through 8 as well.
Question about the timeline and how quickly can this be planned?
We're having these conversations now so that we can work closely with the developer and the city of Brisbane to make sure that this is part of the conversation, because they have said that they want to allocate space for educational space. Their website says they want to allocate space for a high school. And so we're definitely having conversations with them, but the timing is not a question that we would be able to answer because that's out of our purview in terms of development within a city.
Thank you. Are we at all concerned that some of our current schools are already experiencing reduced enrollment and interviewing for scarce staff, such as special educators?
So I'm going to answer part of that, and I think Dr. Deloria can answer part of that as well, is that keep in mind that this build out is going to take 10 to 20 years. So it's not tomorrow. The other piece is taking into consideration that there are other communities within the area that are also planning to increase housing within Jefferson Union, Brisbane, and Bayshore. And so those numbers are also being taken into consideration on why we feel it is necessary to have a program on this side, and not with the idea of taking from other programs. The idea is to enhance our current programs and to offer programs that may not exist, but not to take away from any of the current existing stellar programs that already are offered within our communities.
Thank you.
And this is one of the reasons why school districts employ demographers, is to take a look at the long-term effect of the various developments that Dr. Pittman mentioned through a 5, 10, even 15 years out demographic study. And as Dr. Pittman said, all of our high schools have unique characteristics in our district. We're very, very fortunate that the board supports open enrollment and students are able to learn about each of the schools and then make a choice based on their interest. And that would be the same thing for this shared programming in the Baylands.
How about sharing the tax dollars from the build out between Brisbane and Bayshore schools? And just to Bayshore, Brisbane schools need upgrades also. So that is a comment. And another comment that she would like to express how thankful she is to the districts involved. The collaboration and respect shown during these meetings are evident in the plan in place. While there is still some time before the Baylands development is built, it is good to know that we are all in this together to make a better education experience for the students in our communities. Thank you. And the question is, will the Cow Palace development be factored into the consideration of population growth in getting this high school planned?
And the answer to that is yes. That is one thing that's being taken into consideration. As we previously said, there are a few future developments that are also being taken into consideration.
This is so exciting. I appreciate the goal to bring in every student in all the districts. Can you expand on the middle school vision?
So we're not there yet. That's a conversation that we'll continue to have in the future.
Another comment, the importance is to build something with forward thinking in education. Skyline is a must. What area does Bayshore Elementary District cover? Sorry that this person missed that. Thank you.
So we cover the Bayshore community within Daly City, and then we cover the Baylands development within the city of Brisbane.
Would a student attending the 6th through 12th school be required to start attending in 6th grade, or could they begin attending in 9th grade?
They would not have to begin in 6th grade. They absolutely can begin in 9th grade.
And again, another appreciation for collaboration. It sounds positive. What are the incentives for the developer to follow through?
Well, one of the incentives is to be able to sell their units and to sell their commercial property. So having good educational programming is going to be important to all of those families that reside in the 2,200 units. And it's going to be important to anybody who runs commercial space to know that the families who could be living in the area have outstanding educational opportunities.
Thank you. Would establishing a 6 to 12 school in the Baylands mean that Littman Middle School would close?
Oh, no. No, not whatsoever. So I'll address that just a little bit. Yeah, the Brisbane School District, this land and this school is not within our jurisdiction. We have no plans of any of our 3 schools closing whatsoever.
Thank you. Will some of the units be dedicated for teacher and staff housing?
we don't have an answer to that. It's something that we can look into, but that's a question for the developer.
And a comment about looking forward to our districts working together. Is there a guesstimation on how many students the new campus would serve? And to clarify, would it be 6th to 12th grade?
So there was a meeting that a couple of board members, Dr. Pittman, Mr. Culver, and I attended with the developer, Mr. Greg Vilken. And at that time, he felt, I can only speak for the high school, Audra, maybe you can remind us about the elementary. But he expected that at full build out that the development would generate maybe 100 high school students. But as Dr. Pittman said, we need to do a demographic study that's considering all of the developments in the area, not just the Baylands development. Dr. Pittman?
And then just to add to that, so it would have enough space to have a full 6th through 8th. Based on his numbers, it would be 2 classes per grade level, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. So that's about 300 kids, 6th through 8th grade. And then feeding into the 9-12. The other piece, and I'd like Dr. Deloria to speak to this, is that this is just a reminder that, and hopefully I get the language accurate, so she can correct me if I don't, that Jefferson Union High School District is a district of choice. And so students across our community can choose to go to the high school that best fits their needs. And this high school would be one of those choices. So it would not be limited either to say that you had to go to this high school or that you couldn't go to this high school, based on depending upon what the numbers and wants were by the community when it actually opened.
The only thing I would add is just to emphasize that any student from Bayshore or Brisbane would be able to apply for enrollment at this school or any other school in the Jefferson Union District.
Thank you. Has any study been done regarding advantages versus disadvantages to stay as a joint project with existing 3 districts?
I don't understand the question.
Can you read that question again?
Has any study done regarding advantages versus disadvantages to stay as a joint project within existing 3 districts? And we can get clarification from the person that asked this. So we will put this in our FAQs.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, so this would be a school within which school district?
So this, if we do this educational programming, the Baylands development currently resides in the Bayshore and the Jeff Union attendance areas.
So it would reside in 2 districts.
Yes.
Bayshore for up through 8th grade and Jefferson Union from 9th and through 12th.
Are the staff teachers the same union? How will that be resolved?
So I'm going to give an example, something that's often done. In fact, we're doing it with the Pacifica School District right now. In Pacifica, the board wanted to start world languages in the middle school. But they have a small number. So trying to recruit a full-time, say, Spanish teacher is difficult for a small district. So right now we share a Spanish teacher between Pacifica and Jefferson Union. We would do a similar situation where we could share perhaps a foreign language teacher, and the 2 districts would pay, prorate what they have to pay that person. It's an invoicing thing. I'm not sure of the details, but there's a way to invoice, and teachers still work for their district's unions.
So, and just to add to that, there are often districts that may only need a part-time staff member, but it's difficult to find a part-time staff member. So they share that person between 2 separate districts. And then their contract is with 1 district, and they get their benefits and their salary through that district. And then that district bills the other district for the portion that they serve within that other district. So it could be a 50-50 split. It could be a 60-40 split. It could be a 90-10 split, depending upon the needs. But again, this is not an unheard of arrangement that occurs between partner districts.
Okay. If a Brisbane 6th through 8th graders attend a new 6 through 12 Bayland school, would the money follow the student out of the Brisbane school district?
That's kind of a yes and no answer. Currently, Brisbane receives monies based on their tax roll, which exceeds what the state says it should cost to serve the students in their school district. And so they get the same amount of money, whether they have 100 students or whether they have 1,000 students. So no, their money would not be taken from Brisbane to go to this other district, because in essence, they would be getting more money because they'd have less students that they would serve if they transferred into the Bayshore School District.
What is the possibility of a request from some other party to create a charter school?
I mean, I don't know what those possibilities are. The possibilities are endless for almost anything. But at this point, I don't think we have any requests coming in that I know of.
Is it possible to work with city officials to fast track the development process?
I think our plan is to work with them as closely as we possibly can. And I'm quite certain they're going to work as quickly as they can to meet the needs of their city as well as the community. I don't necessarily know if a fast track in this environment right now is going to happen, but I think that all want this development to happen.
Will Brisbane students be able to consider the Bayland 6 through 8 program? And will Bayland students be able to go to Brisbane 1 through 5th grade, 1st or 5th grade?
I think that is one of the things that the superintendents have been talking about, is where our students could go and what the criteria would be to exchange them. And Bayshore and Brisbane right now, you know, we have a wonderful working relationship, and those are things that down the road that we want to iron out. What does that look like? So I'm actually, you know, from the Brisbane side of things, very excited to work with Audra and her school board on how that would look.
And I echo that sentiment.
Thank you. A couple of comments. Great work cooperating to plan ahead instead of responding with surprise. And as a teacher in JUHSD High School District, I look forward to working side by side with the elementary and middle school teachers and future high school teachers at this new school to best serve all of the students at every school within districts. Another question, where would the funds come from building this new school?
So that's a good question. The developer has set aside land, and part of the negotiations with the city will be that the developer will build the school. If the developer is willing to do that, like I said, he's met with us already to start initial conversations.
Will students from Jefferson Elementary School District be able to apply?
Yes, similar to Ronan's comment around Brisbane and Bayshore. And then they are already in the Jefferson Union, so it would just be a school that they would choose, that they would have the option to choose in high school, in the same format that they're already selecting schools.
How many students will the 9 through 12 portion of the Bayland School accommodate?
So this is an early question that I can't give you an exact answer today. We've been told that about 100 high school students will be generated when the development is fully developed. But that's why we need to do our demographic studies, taking a look at all the developments, not just the Baylands development. So if I were going to guess right now, I'd say 100 from the Baylands plus students from a few of the other developments.
What happens if there is a flood of interest from neighborhoods not adjacent to the Baylands? Will Baylands, Brisbane, and Bayshore students end up on a waiting list?
So
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say for up through 8th grade, no, because we would need to make sure that we were, again, it's not, I want to say no, but if all of a sudden we had 1,000 students living in the area, then we would have to have other decisions on what the development looks like. But based on the numbers that they're showing us right now, no.
If a student is enrolled in the new 6 to 12 grade school, example grade 9, but decide to leave and enters a school in JUHSD, will this student be on track to graduate since the new school may not incorporate a subject matter such as PE?
So I think Dr. Pittman and I would both say that we're going to have all the programming that's required by California Education Code. PE is something that's required. And so the classes that a student takes in 6th through 8th grade really doesn't have any bearing on what students take starting in high school. Different districts have rules about promotion from 8th grade, but it wouldn't have any bearing on students being able to enter our district.
And then just to clarify, so they, from Bayshore's standpoint, we currently offer PE up through 8th grade. So it's already being met from that standpoint. And then just because the question seems a little bit confusing, if they are in 9th grade at this particular school, they're already in Jefferson Union and they would be meeting the same requirements as they would attending any other school in Jefferson Union, which are both the graduation requirements that are set both by the state as well as by Jefferson Union.
Okay. What is the current percentage of Brisbane students not attending JUHSD? The sooner we can keep our kids from choosing other high schools, the stronger both our communities will be. Hence the importance to get high schools portion defined.
Ms. Baca,
I don't have, oh,
Ms.
go
Baca,
ahead.
Ms. Baca did a study on this. Do you remember what the percentage of Brisbane students were that weren't attending JUHSD? If
I don't
not,
remember off the top of my head, but we can add this onto the questions for this FAQ. A comment, thank you to all the panel. Love the collaboration and appreciate the intentionality of including all stakeholders, especially the community members. They cannot wait to hear more student voice. A question, will special education be included in new high school?
Yes.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, based on the physical size of the Baylands educational land and subtracting out the school size for the 2 classes of 6 through 8 students, how many high school students could be accommodated in the remaining space?
So I want to reframe the question because it's going to be the demographic study that helps us decide how large the school should be. I can't really speak to the acreage portion, but once we know how many students we're going to have in a 6 through 12 program, we can design an educational space on that land that's been allocated.
And a question again about the timeline. This project will take from 10 to 20 years. When will the high schools begin construction and will they be the first to be built?
So unfortunately, that's a question that we don't have the answer to. And we will learn more as the developer presents their plans to the city of Brisbane and what their timeline is. Obviously, we would hope to be a part of that conversation in terms of the sooner the better. But again, we don't have the answer to that.
And that is all I have.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Are there any final comments from our panelists?
I just want to say I'm looking forward to working together with both the superintendents and the board. This is going to be an exciting project, and our kids are lucky to have the leadership that we have.
And I'll second that, Terry. I think it's wonderful that the citizens of Brisbane and my students, my 8th graders down the road, and we know that's down the road, will have the opportunity to be able to go to high school a little closer to home. And that's an exciting project, and to be a part of this with the city and with the developers on giving our educational voice on what would be best for the kids in this land. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm looking forward to it.
And I just want to be the third to agree with that. I think we have a great working partnership, and this is an exciting opportunity, and we're looking forward to how this is all going to roll out and how we can serve all the students within our community. And this is just the start. And so we hope that you were able to get your questions answered, and know that as we continue down this path, we will be holding more of these meetings and getting more questions answered as we continue to move forward and develop what this program is going to look like in the future. So thank you everyone for giving us an hour of your Monday night. I almost forgot what day it was. This situation has definitely convoluted my days of the week. So thank you again for giving us your evening, and we look forward to working with the entire community as we move forward.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Thank you.